Yeah, you found the magical place.
Do people know about this?
They just stumble in.
Is it always this way?
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yeah.
hey, can I interview you?
Yeah. Yeah. You want to talk about your dreams?
Yeah, I literally just had a gig. I'm a musician, entrepreneur. Like, I play saxophone as well with DJs.
Oh, cool.
And my sister does sound healing. And together we actually do ceremonial concerts, which is a fusion between... It opens with a beautiful cacao ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
This cacao.
Yeah.
Calling in love. Basically, in short, 4 years ago, my mother wanted to start an organization to help women call in their soulmates. And it basically came to be that she wasn't so sure she can help people with that mission because it's, number one, she had to call it in herself. It came from her own desire. And then it began to expand, actually, that the soulmate was the mission was a lot bigger than calling in a soulmate, because love isn't necessarily just a soulmate, but it's in everything we do. It's in every moment, in every life, every being. And it's everywhere. It's right here.
Yeah.
So are we on camera?
Yeah.
So we're already filming.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
I'll just open with some cacao. Calling in love cacao is a beautiful ceremonial grade cacao that I started importing last year. Working with local and indigenous Colombian farmers in the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta in northern Colombia, where I've been pretty much for the last 4 years, and I'm just trying to, give a little back from everything I've been given in those lands, and it's been a wild journey.
Oof, I want to hear all about
it.
This is my gratitude. This is my gratitude. My circumstances, not my choice, but I can fight and make a change.
You calling in love.
And that is the heart of the world.
The medicine within.
So the idea is love is not something that we find in another. It started, right? My mother started it. She was looking for it in a soulmate, but what happened was it was actually the journey within.
Yeah.
Which, as cheesy as it sounds, it's what we say. It's the only thing we're really doing here.
Yeah.
Whenever I sit around a table with my mother and my sister, who we're the two musicians. My mother's like the mother/grandmother of the organization. And it's just been a journey. I started in Colombia with zero intention to end up where I was. I had no clue that I would end up on a farm importing cacao, running trips and retreats.
Yeah.
Cool. For an entire community of people that continues to grow. I just knew in the beginning that I wanted to change, that I wanted to heal.
Yeah.
I was living in New York at the time, pretty miserable, studying jazz and economics. Hey, baby. Yeah, I was started with jazz, and then I thought I wanted to make money.
Yeah.
And then I actually finished with a degree in anthropology.
Cool. Yeah.
So sounds about right.
Yeah. Jazz, economics, anthropology. Yeah.
Before you enjoy this cacao, set an intention for something or someone you are truly grateful for. Open your heart. Release anything that is not serving you. Tune into the frequency of love. On the back of this bag, we just say it's for this cacao, but this is my prayer every time. Before I eat, before I put something in my mouth, before I say a word. And I hope this will be all of our prayers. And a prayer just means doing anything with intention. Spirit is not something outside of ourselves. There's no spirit that exists outside of ourselves. So yeah, take as much time as you'd like and enjoy, yeah. I heard a beautiful word from a friend the other day, from a new friend, that we can actually only communicate to each other in moments of silence. Because otherwise it always requires for one person to be talking and the other to be listening. But when we sit in silence together, we can actually listen to one another together. Or in dance, or in music, in acts that transcend the word.
Yeah, language is so limiting. And we only really receive what we are ready to receive.
We live in a society that is constantly, all of us, we're entertained. We're addicted to the entertainment, to scrolling, social media, all forms of media. But a lot of these forms often really take us out of intentional movement. You can call it source. This is just an invitation to go within. And you say this to most, right? It's getting more de moda. I don't know how to say this in English. Is getting more hype or in fashion to meditate, to yoga, spirituality. But this is actually sometimes can just be another form. And it's a simple invitation to just go within and see what's there. And we're raised in a society that constant stimulation outside doesn't foster this inner knowing, this inner medicine that we each have. And we actually have never been broken. And we don't need to be healed, despite all of these systems that be telling us we're not good enough, saying without this job, this house, this car, this partner, this amount of money in my bank, what I've noticed from a lot of travels with lots of people coming down to South America on the family retreats that we organize is lots of people are very interested in experiencing, as I was, plant medicine, psychedelics, maybe a magic word from an indigenous tribes member. And the irony is the wisest word or the deepest connection we will ever experience, any single human, is not something outside, is not going to happen with another human. All they can do is create a space for us to encounter ourselves, for us to experience our most true selves, whatever that means for each and every one of us, our unique soul blueprint. And it's not, right? The irony is how complicated it can be sometimes to arrive to this simplicity of life. How complicated it can be, unfortunately so, to receive the transmission of pure connection, pure connection to the heart. And we live in a world where people have so many reasons for judgment, for hate, and it starts in each and every one of us. And people get afraid, myself included, when someone gives me free love. I don't know you. You don't know me. How can you love me? Well, you don't know me and you can hate me. People don't seem to have an issue hating for no reason. But when it comes to loving for no reason, there's always pushback. We're very ironic creatures, the human race.
That's a word for it. Yeah.
And I just love the way I walked in and you said, come on in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think we all need more just more authentic, and there's nothing to sell, there's nothing to buy. There's just a moment to look into each other's eyes and see the humanity in the other, and as much as I can see you, also allowing you to see me. Right? That's been a big lesson for me, right? Allowing myself to be seen by other people. You know? Which is, no matter how much or little I think you can or cannot see me, just allowing everyone to show up as they are, and wherever you're at, whichever part of me you see, and whichever part of me sees you, celebrating those parts.
Yeah.
And not focusing on the parts where we can't see each other. And that's where we're still learning. The places where maybe I can't see you so clearly and I don't understand. We don't need to shame people for that.
Yeah.
Everything, and there's reasons. There's reasons maybe why I can't see. Maybe it's been hidden. Maybe, right, the powers that be have miseducated us. But the heart pierces through all this bullshit. Because with a pure heart, I know we can learn and we can change. Right? So in all of my ignorance, I know I can still evolve and become more learned, and just remaining humble and knowing that, you know, I'm just another human being, you know, learning before I leave. And yeah, I would just say, if this was my last night here with you, there's something so beautiful about this moment. And we're good. Even with all of the craziness that's happening in this world.
So much.
So much.
So much.
But that two souls can find themselves in a laboratory in the back of a hotel.
Yeah.
Not sure how I ended up here, but
A laboratory. Yes. Welcome to my laboratory. Yeah. Yeah. How did you end up here? You told me you were in New York and studying infinite things, jazz, finance, anthropology, and then somehow made your way down to Colombia. Is that a journey you'd want to talk about, or would you want to start your story somewhere else? Or, yeah.
It's definitely a beautiful part of the story. I feel like the more I'm learning about my own stories, the more I'm realizing how little I know about my own story.
Yeah. Same.
Right? The magical story. I love to talk about Colombia. I love to tell people, wow. Yeah, and they love it too. They think it's such a magical story. There is a magic to it. But I'm telling you, nothing beats this moment. There's something so profound that if we can just allow ourselves to be here.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that definitely happened through, right, the whole Colombia trip. I can start. I was 20 at the time, studying jazz. It was definitely probably after my second relationship that I realized I wasn't in a good place. I wasn't in. I didn't have any love for myself. I didn't even know I didn't have the language or any space to hold myself. And when I was 20, my mother had just done Vipassana, if you're familiar with what that is.
Yeah, but maybe explain it so that if someone doesn't know.
Yeah, Vipassana is an ancient Indian meditation technique that's been practiced for thousands of years. They said the Buddha became enlightened through this meditation technique. They say many enlightened ones throughout the ages have practiced Buddha. The story, as I was told, by Goenka, who is one of the main people that made this meditation popular in the West, coming from India. He sat down, he says, I'm not moving until I become enlightened. They said it was the Vipassana meditation that he did, which is very simply just observing the breath. You sit until you realize who you truly are, your true nature, whatever that means. So my mother did it. She's like, yeah, this changed me. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting out of New York. I want to do this. And I originally wanted to travel to India. And I had no money. I was a broke college kid at the time. And I found a cheap flight in a Buddhist temple in Medellin, in Rio Negro, Antioquia, which is like 30 minutes outside of Medellin, Colombia. And this was in January of 2020. Not too long ago, but just over 4 years ago. And I went down there. I first went for a month, but the meditation was 11 days of silence in a ashram, or it's the name for a traditional Eastern meditation temple. I was there for 10 days. They would serve us 2 meals, one at 6 a.m. We'd wake up at 4, meditate till 6. 6 was breakfast. And we had 1 hour break. 7 to 11 is morning meditation. And 11 to 12 is lunch. And then I believe it was like 12:30 or 1 till 5. Next meditation. And then you had like a 15-minute break. And then you meditated till 8:30. Night meditation. Then 9 o'clock you'd go to bed to wake up at 4 again. And you did that for 10 days. So you got about 5, 10, you have around 14 hours of meditation. And then you sleep the rest of the day or night. I did that. I had some profound breakthroughs till today. After all the psychedelics I've done, I would say Vipassana meditation was one of the strongest medicines. It was the first time I ever had a out-of-body high experience, which I didn't understand until I came back to New York. I've never had any rational thinker, right? I was very skeptical before anyone starts telling me about a spiritual experience. I'm like, yeah, the fuck you talking about? But I remember walking out of these 11 days, and I had some deep, deep confrontational moments, wild dreams, right? Because you're clearing out so many thoughts, right? We have, 600,000 thoughts a day. How many of those are we conscious and are aware? Or do they just slip away like that? I walked out, and I couldn't understand what was going on here. I remember walking out of the temple, just looking around. I was like, this doesn't make sense. And at the time, a dear friend of mine, who's still one of my dearest brothers till this day, says, he's Colombian. He's like, I have a very special spot for you. I had one more week in Colombia at the time, maybe 2 weeks. And this is January of 2020s. We get on a bus from Medellin, 20-hour bus ride up to the north. We go up, 20-hour bus ride to Santa Marta, which is like the northern coastal city. It's like a beach city, it's getting better and better, but at the time I was just flying, right? I was just in it was the first time I understood what it meant to be in a different vibrational state. And right now, for me, it wasn't an idea. It wasn't a concept in my brain. It was experiential. All of it was, I felt my body was expanded. So the best way I can explain it is if you've ever taken a psychedelic, my friends, and you feel like you're outside of your body, or when you're in your dream, if you've ever had a dream, and I think most human beings have had dreams, you're out of your body. It's happening from your brain, but you're out of your body. Imagine having a similar experience just walking in the day. So you're experiencing a lot bigger spatially than just, what's happening right here.
Right.
And we take another bus up the coast, and then we take a 2-hour hike up the mountain. That was the first time I met the first indigenous family from the Arhuaco tribe. And I remember we had to cross a river, like by foot with our stuff on top of our head. We're like walking for 2 hours. And we ended up, me and my friend, and there was another Dutch guy there at the time who wanted to tag along. And then we stayed by the river for about 4 or 5 days. And my friend had some DMT on him. And these tribes the ones in the north, the ones in the south in the Amazon are famous for their plant medicines, ayahuasca, San Pedro, all different chacruna, all different kinds of plant diets. And right, that's what's very famous right now when people hear about indigenous tribes and plant medicines. But these tribes in the north have a completely different tradition with their own set of plants. Do a lot of herbal work, a lot of work with the land, planting with the cycles. Very connected people. And I remember seeing, so before I jump, we were sitting by the river. Number one, the kids, I've never met such free children in my life. Running around naked in the night, in the day, getting animals coming to them, bugs. They would just kick them away like free kids, the most free children. I don't think any kindergarten in this country or most parents, right, that I grew up around probably wouldn't know how to handle these children, right? Just very uncontrolled, free, and so happy. Such happy children. And strong and wise. I learned so much from them. And one afternoon, it was like the second or third day, my friend, my Colombian friend, right? I didn't speak a word of Spanish at the time. He brings me down to the river, like behind a little bush, and he was like, yo, I got DMT. Let's smoke some. So I'm 3 days out of Vipassana, unaware of what's happening inside of me, because I felt so connected to nature at this time but it was almost like I had entered a world I wasn't ready to receive. And none of this made sense to me until about a week after, which I'll explain in a moment. So I'm there, and I was able to see immediately my peripheral vision. There was like, it was almost like I was able to see from on top of my head, like Google Maps, you can see like down. And I saw like there was one indigenous man coming towards us. And I told him, someone's coming. And I'm taking this all for granted, like just my spatial awareness. And I'm like, it was normal to me. I wasn't able to compare and contrast my before and after self. Even when I tell this story, it feels weird, right? Only my thinking analytical brain is like comparing and contrasting. Because when you're in that state, you just are.
Just are.
Yeah. He takes a couple hits. My friend leaves.
Oh.
And he goes, ooh. He's like, yeah. He's like looking around like this. Like, then I'm like, okay, my turn. Nothing. I mean, you got to be careful. You shouldn't smoke DMT like this. 'Cause with one hit, you're. Because I smoked it after, and I've had very bad experiences with DMT. But the first time, it was. This was the moment I looked around and I said, bro, could you see the fractals? And I said, wait, I've been seeing the fractals. I've been like, wait, the DMT's not doing anything to me, but my friend's gone. I think I'm already high. 10, 15 minutes later, we start kind of getting up, walking around, and I'm like asking him, are you okay? How's everything doing? And he's like, wow. And I'm just like, yeah, I've been here the whole time.
Welcome. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we go around, and there was an indigenous guy there. They were waiting for us. Like, they kind of knew that we were up to something. Didn't say anything, respected us. And later that evening, for some reason, I was frightened of these guys. It was like, they felt like, I felt their vibrational states are different. Any human that grows up in nature or very close to nature is far more attuned to the cyclical living and to the energies present all around us at all times. When we put up, this is also part of nature, city, the cement, everything comes from nature at the end of the day, but the illusion is a lot deeper, and the separation is much deeper in city Western life.
Right.
Depending on who you ask and which tradition you follow, I mean, I think the consensus of cacao is it's a super element of and for the heart. Jam-packed. It's one of its main chemical components is theobromine, which is, generates blood flow to the heart.
Yeah.
So its Greek name, scientific name is cacao theobrima. Maybe I'm puncturing but theobrima, which is the chemical theobromine, and it's also the highest. It's got like 2 to 3 times more antioxidants than any blackberries, goji berries. The highest plant source of magnesium. So we're talking in the plant kingdom, the highest source of magnesium. We live in a magnesium deficient nation, world. People think they're only going to get that in meats, cacao. I'm not talking about chocolate process. We're talking about 100% cacao. This is grown, and we only work with farmers who grow it in agroforests, known here in the United States as food forests, which essentially just means it's grown alongside fruit trees and endemic timber trees. This is why you can feel a citrus and a creamy taste.
Yeah.
And it almost has, you can feel there's a sugar, a natural sugar, because we don't use any heavy machinery in the process. So it doesn't strip this cacao of its essential nutrients and minerals and vitamins, which are so good for us.
Yes. There you go. Calling in love, 100% ceremonial cacao.
My mother says, Yehuda, are you pushing your business hard enough? And I say probably not by your standards. I don't think... I probably don't operate by most people's standards, but one thing I do operate is... And I was telling her, I was like, I hope... And hope's actually feels like a weak emotion to me. Because hope is also usually implies that there's not 100% security. You know? Belief is pretty strong. Belief is much better than hope. Knowing can sometimes be borderline arrogant. Because believing is really stronger than knowing, because, right, even if whatever we believe is true is the truth. So you have a scientific fact, but I believe in my story. My story is what will lead my life and my truth. In that sense. But the point is, one of my dreams, this is a tangent, is to create a sustainable company. Sustainable is a huge word. We use it right and left, greenwashing, all types of bullshit that we do today to make ourselves look good, feel good. Carbon, what do you call them? The companies that want to get their carbon footprints. But there's a certain thing that...
Carbon neutral?
No, and they get points for giving... big companies get points for like giving a certain amount of money to these companies every year. And I'm thinking, how could and a farmer in Colombia, a dear friend of mine, told me that he was a scientist for 10 years in the Amazon coming up with all these studies, right? The famous studies that the earth is changing, climate change, that we're burning the forests, sea levels are rising. And he says this whole time, the same people funding all my studies are the ones causing these problems. Oof. And then he's telling me, and I haven't planted a single tree this whole time. Disastrous. Do I have the answers? I can maybe identify the problem. But we can never underestimate the power. And during COVID, he lived 90% off of his land. That's a dream come true, right?
That's a dream. Food sovereignty, come on.
He did it.
Water sovereignty, energy sovereignty.
He was energy, water, food sovereignty.
Oof, that's my dream.
Food 90%. So, right? And the rest was from the village. The local village, who's, right, also coming from local sources. And when I began to see people living these simple yet powerful dreams, I said, fuck it. I want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
I have grown up in a place that is so unsustainable. 1/3 of all food is thrown to waste. And all ShopRite, Stop and Shop, Whole Food, 1/3 of all untouched food is thrown to waste. We are shitting in our water.
Right.
Like, hello.
Yeah.
What is happening? That is the worst thing. There's the top, you speak to any... right, earth scientist, permaculture, or agroculture person that knows, right, the biggest leading problems that are hurting our environment, it's water. It's the water production, water usage, water consumption. And I don't remember the statistics, but it's one of the most damning. We're contaminating the water. We're putting all these horrible bacteria, which create the richest soil.
Right.
So it's a lot of cultural stuff, and right, we have some of the richest soil, and this is where this cacao comes from. So the farm down in Colombia, well, it's actually an association of farmers that get paid about double the amount of the rest of the farmers in Colombia. So right there, they have more incentives to continue doing organic practices and maintain their agroforests, which, as I explained before, is to maintain the diversity. The basic principle of agroforest is more diverse the forest, the more healthy and nutrient rich the food is. And this is what creates really nutrient rich food. And we know this because indigenous people for thousands of years didn't have the complexity and diversity options of foods that we have today. And they were fine. How was it so? Because their potatoes were super nutrient rich in whatever they needed in that area, because they were maintaining a diversity of food, crops, different kinds of trees all in one area. So they were actually getting the minerals and vitamins they needed from each one of those single foods. Whereas today we have 100 acres of only potatoes
Yeah.
sprayed with pesticides.
Right, and only one species of potato because
One
they've killed off all the other ones through the
So now these
famine.
potatoes are nutrient deficient in so many different things. So now we need all these different kinds of foods to get all the different nutrients. When really one potato can be filled with so many nutrients that is just deficient today because we've killed the soil. It's all soil. You speak to any big size. Zach Bush is big on. You know Zach Bush?
I don't know if I do.
Shervin, Zach Bush, Vandana Shiva. Speak to any of the biggest spiritual or scientists. Any scientist that knows anything about Earth knows it's all in the soil.
Yeah.
Rich soil is rich food.
Yeah.
So that's one dream, and it's not my dream. This is all of our dream, actually. Right? This is actually just life for all of us. So that's what cacao. This whole cacao thing is like, it's a nice way of calling in love, because that's the only way I see of teaching this whole thing. Most people don't care unless it's personal, and the way to make anything personal is you bring it back to love.
Yeah.
So this cacao is to help open our hearts and remember who the fuck we are. And through this, right, maybe we'll be a bit more conscious the next time we buy our groceries, or right, not to save anyone else, but first to help ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? It's not about saving the world. I read a beautiful thing yesterday. It's like, you don't need to worry about saving the world. I promise you, if you think you had enough power to fuck up God's plans, I'm here to assure you, you're not that powerful.
This is mine. 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 This is mine.